Hey, Dan Passarelli here. Well, we had another update in the market today with S&P 500 closing at 675.02. That is the SPY ETF specifically. Notably over the 50-day moving average, which is kind of a big deal. VIX ends up down to 1856, and that's not really the interesting part of the day here. Let's talk about the interesting part of the day, and let's talk about what nobody else is talking about. So the interesting thing is that Meta is planning on buying AI chips, instead of GPUs, they're TPUs, from none other than Google. Where did that come from, right? Well, yeah. So what that looks like is Nvidia pulling back another 2.5% today. Google is taking off greatly to the upside with massive new highs today here. I mean, up almost, more than 9% in just the last two sessions. Now, let's talk about this, though. They say they're buying chips from Google. That's like, you go to the deli and you say, I want to buy this sandwich, and they make the sandwich and they give it to you and you give them the money. But that's not what goes on when it comes to AI chips. See, even Nvidia doesn't actually make their own chips. They design them, they sell them, they do all the stuff except actually make the physical product. Most of Nvidia's chips are made by Taiwan Semiconductor, TSM. Let's take a look at their stock. Their stock did have a little bit of a pullback lately, but it's still up over 100% from the beginning of April. Google, they don't make their own chips either. They design them and they sell them. You know who makes their chips? Taiwan Semiconductor. They make some of them. You know who makes some of their other ones? Well, it's going to be our old friend Broadcom, AVGO. Their stock also up more than 100% since the beginning of April. So there's a lot of really important nuances here for an investor who wants to play what's going on here. One is that it's a price war. Really, this is the first chink in the armor of the price war. Nvidia, they could charge whatever they wanted because they were the only ones who were designing and selling the chips that everybody wanted. Now they got their first real competition that will erode their pricing strategy. And probably Google's not going to be their only competition. The pricing power there on the current monopoly that Nvidia has, or basically monopoly that Nvidia has, that's going to disappear. The biggest loser out of what's coming is likely to be Nvidia. The biggest winners, well, there's two obvious answers, and we already talked about them, but then there's one that's not quite so obvious, and it might be a little bit of a long shot. Two obvious winners, of course, are TSM and AVGO, but that's already priced into their stocks. What are you going to do? Buy their stocks? I mean, it's like it's the same sandwich maker for two different delis. I mean, it doesn't matter. So they still have the massive advantage. But there's another company that I don't really know. But I think they might be able to start giving these companies a run for their money. I'm going to throw this out there. This stock is INTC, Intel. Now, I say that because they actually have a foundry that produces chips. Now, from a technological standpoint, they are definitely far, far, far behind TSM and AVGO. They kind of let the foundry dwindle for many, many years. But just a couple of months ago, the U.S. government made an investment in them, as did a lot of other big players. And I wouldn't be surprised if they get into this dog and pony show too and start producing some of these AI chips. I think there's a lot of work ahead of them if they're going to do that. And that can't happen tomorrow. But if we're looking forward 2-3 years, I think we're going to see Intel in this race as maybe a tertiary level, but I think that they can be competitive in this market. Hope that helps. This is Dan Passarelli, Trade Smart.